Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Franchise Interviews. Today you're going to get to hear Will Glennie from the Juice Stop franchise opportunity. And the Juice Stop franchise opportunity attracts a wide variety of consumers, from executives to workers to students, all seeking a fast, nutritious, tasty meal. And this is part one of a two-segment interview. So enjoy, and we'll see you again with another segment. Special guest, we're meeting with Will Glennie of the franchise Juice Stop. And Juice Stop stores attract a broad variety of consumers ranging from executives to laborers to students, all seeking a quick, nutritious, tasty meal. Hey, Will, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. How y'all doing?
Good today, Will. Will, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, who I believe you know, and I know, Don, you wanted to say hello to Will.
Yeah, hey, Will, I appreciate you coming on the show. As I've told you, Marty, Will and I have gotten to know each other a little bit from our franchise funding services, and Will's been in franchising a long time, so, we look forward to speaking to you today, Will.
I look forward to speaking with you both, and I'm honored to be here.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, Will, again, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. You know, Don and I were saying earlier, we can't wait for you guys to hit the Northeast. You know, I understand you guys have come up with a product that tastes great, and it's good for you at the same time.
Yeah, the juice and smoothie business is really starting to come into its own insofar as product development and product awareness, really. If you think back 20 years ago, it was almost non-existent, primarily a California phenomenon more than anything else. And today, juice and smoothie stores are really all over the country, even in cold climates. We have stores up as far north as Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So,
yeah, that's right. I've seen that. Yeah, that's fantastic. We'd like to start off with asking our guest where you're calling from today.
I'm calling from the beautiful Denver, Colorado.
Oh, there you go. We've had a lot of franchisors from that area, Don.
Right, it's a big franchising area, Will. Denver. It's franchisors, franchisees. It's a real growing market besides just being a beautiful city.
You know, it really is, and I think there's a few things that contribute to that. That no one is really from Denver. Denver's kind of the new frontier. A lot of people from the Midwest move out here. A lot of people from the East and the Southeast come out here for the climate, for the mountains, and the lifestyle. And when they get here, they find out that there's only 11 Fortune 500 companies that are based here, compared to a similar city like St. Louis that might have 40 or 50 of those type companies, and maybe a broader opportunity of work type environments versus when you get here. You don't fit into one of those 11 existing Fortune 500 companies. You're really more in the entrepreneurial type lifestyle.
That's true.
Sounds like there's a lot of room for growth.
There really is. And, there's, in addition to franchise chains, there's also some corporate-owned chains based here. You might be familiar with Chipotle and some others in that same space. So it's really definitely is a hotbed of activity and a great community of executives and, management and middle management that get together on a quarterly basis. A lot of times at the second Tuesday meetings, and it's a good network. It really is.
You're making me think about calling a real estate agent out there.
I got a few I could give you a name, a number.
All right.
Well, what were you doing before getting involved with Juice Stop?
Well, I've been involved in franchising for just about 20 years. I started in the late 80s. I started out in the quick lube business with an outfit known in New Orleans as Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up. Mm-hmm. And generally right out of college, where a lot of guys were going to become accountants and lawyers and doctors and what have you. I went into the franchise business primarily on the development side, and did a lot of the real estate development, finance, and sales of franchises for that brand, and helped establish a sub-franchising entity in 3 markets in the Southeast, the Northeast, and in California, and developed about 100 franchises with that outfit, and then worked my way up to Vice President of Development and National Sales for the company over the course of about 2.5 years, and going on from there, I spent some time with Mrs. Fields Cookies in the very early 90s. Mrs. Fields at the time had about 450, maybe 500 units, and we converted those units, or my team converted those units over the course of about a 5-year time to franchising, a very large, one of the earlier refranchising efforts, and really changed the dynamic of that organization. And while there and going through that, I acquired several of the stores with my wife out here in Colorado and participated in ownership and several down in Florida as well. And it was a really great experience, and worked with some wonderful people in the business at that company. And then I went on with the skill sets that I acquired by that time later in the 90s and joined a company called Pretzel Maker on the development side, which ultimately became acquired by Mrs. Fields Cookies. I also tried to acquire that entity on my own. And the group that I put together to acquire Pretzel Maker came to me after the deal went to Mrs. Fields and said, hey, we invested in another outfit in the juice smoothie business, and we think it's in trouble, probably going to have to go through a dip and bankrupt. Would you like to run it? And I said yes, and ran it through a Section 363 in the bankruptcy, which is a pre-planned sale of the asset, really just using the bankruptcy court to deliver the ownership of the assets cleanly. And went in and out in 100 days, came out with, went in with about 80 units, out with about 40 units, debt-free, did a private round of equity, and really cleaned up the organization and reformatted the business practice, the supply chain, the fit and finish of the stores. And after that, or since then, that was about 7 years ago, we've been focused on developing out area directorship markets with that organization, as well as going out and doing one-off franchising in select markets, really trying to focus on the Sun Belt states. In addition to that, I established back in 2003 Brand Equity Development, which also does merger and acquisition, structured debt and equity raising, advisory on M&A in the industry, and have relationships with two other brands right now, New York Fresh Deli and Steve's Pizza, which are both franchise companies based out in Oceanside, California.
That's great. It sounds like a real entrepreneur yourself, Will.
And you had that at a young age. I mean, that's pretty amazing. By your mid-20s, you were, it seemed like you were heading up the franchise development. A franchise, which is unusual at that young of an age. I deal with VP of franchise development for franchisors all around the country, as you know, Will, and it's unusual to find someone at your young age back then to be heading that up.
Right.
So I think you and I are similar in age, so you really gained a lot of great experience in franchising and then as an entrepreneur at a pretty early age.
Yeah, it was kind of a unique, people ask me what I do, and it kind of takes me a minute to describe it and think about it. You can say you're an entrepreneur, you can say you're in the franchise business and what have you, or you own brands, and it's a great industry, but a lot of people aren't familiar with it, as you know, and I think your show is great because it gives a lot of exposure to not just being a franchisee, but also being a franchisor, and what the differences are, and I think that's really important.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're just trying to educate the people on the basics. It's not for everybody, and it's hard work, and just because you invest in a franchise, it's not automatic you're going to be successful. So that's the point Marty and I try to bring across, and that's why we wanted to have you on the show with all your experience. People listening can learn a lot, Will. So tell us, you just went over several different things, and you really have done a lot at your age right now. You talk about a little bit about Juice Stop, and maybe you can describe the history of the organization for Juice Stop, Will?
Sure. Juice Stop was founded in Irvine, California in 1993 and was developed by two young guys who were trying to get a juice club franchise. They just graduated from UC Irvine, and two brothers, actually, and they were told they're too young and no experience, but they did have some money. The grandfather had left them some money, so Juice Club, as you may not know, is the former to Jamba Juice. Mm-hmm. Jamba Juice started out as Juice Club in San Luis Obispo and later reconcepted as Jamba Juice. And these two gentlemen in 1993 went out and started the first Juice Stop right off the campus of UC Irvine, did phenomenal sales right out of the chute. It was a very sports-themed concept, primarily because the two brothers were both good athletes, weightlifters, baseball players. At that time, girlfriend, later to be wife of the founder, TJ, was a tennis player. So all of the drink names were named after sports moves. Sports moves like a Grand Slam or Ace or Double Axel or whatever the theme might be. And then, of course, the recipe would be underneath the drink name in terms of the product that goes into it. And they really caught a lot of traction with this young suburban Orange County-based customer, and grew to about 30 units in California. There later on was a dispute between family members and ownership, which led to ultimately to some of their financial problems. But at the level, the unit economics have always maintained constant, and were never really impacted by the parent company's issues at that time. And they had grown from California up to Colorado and into about a half a dozen other states over the course of about a 5 or 6 year period. Got into financial trouble, and that's really when I took over. What I didn't mention earlier is we restructured the company after the bankruptcy deal, and I ended up with the majority interest in the company. So that's more or less the history of it.
And how would you describe the franchise system now for Juice Stop, Will?
The franchise system is you guys have talked about something that's very, very important, and that is that franchising in the first instance is not for everyone, and not everybody that gets a franchise is successful. Right. And I would describe Juice Stop as the anti-growth franchise. And I would describe it that way for a couple of reasons. And the first one would be that the opportunity is unique to having a very significant seasonality impact, meaning that this time of year when the leaves are falling off the trees, sales are going down dramatically. And we have a very sensitive opportunity in that when you open a store, you cannot open it going into the winter. You've got to open your store early spring, and that's it. There's no question about it. So development, we can sell franchises all year round. We just can't open them until late February, March, or April. So they have the proper ramp-up time in the first instance. The second thing is that we don't have an addictive quality. I don't need to tell anybody what time to get up in the morning and get a cup of coffee, right? It's the last unregulated addictive drug being sold in America. Smoothies tend to be good for you. We put real fruit, non-fat frozen yogurts, in some instances non-dairy products. I mean, really good, healthy products go into a 24-ounce cup blended to order. And that, people really enjoy that, but that's doing something good for you. And that's not something people like to get in the habit of doing. No one likes to go to the gym. We know it's good for you. The doctor says 20 minutes of cardio is what you need, but you're not going to do it every day. You do drink coffee every day. Right?
True. Absolutely.
So that's another, the way we build our business is different. So we're looking for people that are aligned with that type of opportunity, that understand the business dynamic. Not a bad business. It's just a different business. It's not open. Sandwich shops tend to open up and ramp up to their top-line sales in the first 12, 14 months. At 12 to 14 months, we're in the first tier of our sales, not in the most solid position. So we have a longer runway. However, when we do build our clients, we do build our customer base, we tend to keep them longer, and we tend to have more consistency once we're established.
Yeah, I like your slow growth approach. I know we've spoken in the past, Will. I think that's just a smart approach. Make sure you're getting the right type of person to maximize the possibility of having a failed franchise store. I know on the financing side, our lenders don't like that, but it seems like you're much more careful finding the right fit, slower growth, and having very successful shops.
Well, here's one of the things that you have to remind yourself when you're developing a business like this in the franchise side. There's a lot of people that get into franchising, and, they come up with their own concept, and, it's resonating well with the customers. They're doing really well financially, and now they want to go into franchising, something they've never done before in their entire life. They generally have never done what they were doing currently in their current business before, but they've become experts at it. Now they're selling franchises, and now they're being told you got to do 2 a month or 4 a month, this, some competition and all these things. And I'm thinking to myself, going, that's interesting. You've never dealt with a store that opened and then later closed and ended up in the family being divorced over the financial trauma, and you've never really seen how bad can be. Or have you ever been sued? You've never been down this potentially dangerous path. That's not really, doing anybody any favors. So, and then on the flip side of that, I have to look at other great companies out there like Starbucks. You guys stated earlier in the show how long it took some of the most powerful brands in the world to cross certain thresholds or milestones in terms of number of units open. Right. And, it's important for a franchisor to recognize that, competition is going to come no matter what you do. If you grow to 1,000 units in 6 months, you're still going to have competition. The question is, can that 1,000 units that you grew to in 6 months stay open? How many of those can you retain? Because we're not storming the beach here and throwing bodies to stop the Germans. We're trying to grow a business. Right. We need to be sensitive to the needs of the franchisee and make sure that we don't get ahead of ourselves. One of the greatest quotes I've heard in the business is, never get better at opening stores than running them.
Interesting, yeah.
Right. And that should resonate loudly with every franchisor out there, because we have an obligation to give everybody the greatest opportunity at success. And if we're too focused on selling franchises and not focused enough on developing products and quality marketing and driving top-line sales, it's just a matter of time.
Absolutely. Well, we have to take a quick break. Are you able to... Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews. Asking the Entrepreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you've ever dreamed about owning your own business, then this is a show to listen to. And today we have a very special guest. We're meeting with Will Glenny of the franchise Juice Stop. And, Will, one thing I wanted to get back to is if you can talk a little bit about how big is the industry for Juice Stop?
Well, if you look at direct competitors, and those are companies whose core products, 90% or better, are sold, 16, 24, 32-ounce juice smoothie or fruit smoothie. Mm-hmm. You're looking at about a $2 billion industry annually right now, which is about a double of what it was 6 or 7 years ago. So the growth has been tremendous in terms of product awareness and people coming. It's a great crossover alternative product in the industry right now.
Will, what type of characteristics make a successful Juice Stop franchisee? You're talking a little bit about the whole approach with your franchise, finding the right type of person. So it seems like you're careful, making sure it's a right fit. What are some of the characteristics you look for?
Well, there's 2 things that I would put equal weight and value on. And in the first instance, that's somebody who has management of others in their toolbox, insofar as managing people and for some measured period of time and to some degree of success. Secondarily to that is somebody who has managed their finances well and has the money readily available in the proper dollar amounts for the opportunity, not just with Juice Stop, but for any franchise. Of course, a McDonald's franchise is far more expensive, so you'd need to have considerably more money. But those 2 things, when I look at an applicant, I consider those 2 things of highly equal value, and I think that on the management of people, that's what the franchisee is going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. In the second tier, I look for some kind of sales or marketing background. One of the things we learned from the Mrs. Fields Cookies franchise, which is a great brand, Debbie Fields herself founded that concept, determined that in order to be successful, the franchisee and the employees needed to have a gregarious, outgoing personality. You can't test for the kind of qualities you need. So one of the things you need to give you a great example, and this might sound off the wall, but think about it for a second. We ask the franchisee, if we meet them in person after having a nice conversation, if they wouldn't mind just standing up and singing happy birthday. And the response, if they look shocked and feel uncomfortable doing it, I got to wonder how these people are going to stand at the front door and greet every customer that comes in and thank them for coming in, tell them that they're the owner, and be a bit of a politician, a promoter, if you will, and find success that way.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach, doing that. So I guess that's a good way to tell how someone is. You're right, their personality.
Absolutely.
You know, if you come into a restaurant and their service business and no one says anything, they just look at the ground or they look at the ceiling. It's like being on an elevator. It's uncomfortable, right?
Right.
You want to walk into a business and they say, "Hey, Don, how are you? Glad to have you back. Thanks so much for coming in. Do you want to have what you usually have, or do you want to try something new?" And then when you leave, you want your personnel, the people waiting on your customers, to say, "Hey, thanks for coming in today, and thanks for doing something good for yourself." You know, and repetitively saying things. That's how you grow your business. If somebody doesn't have that within them, we can't train them how to do that. So it's imperative that we determine up front that skill set and that component of their personality is there and it's rich.
Like on the old episode of Cheers when Norm used to walk in to get that type of reception?
That kind of reception. Hey, there's a couple of, I don't mind talking about my competitors. You know, there's another concept out there, what is it, Moe's Southwestern Grill, I think, out of the Southeast.
Right.
They, you know, when you walk in, you go into their website and they say, "Welcome to Moe's," you know, at the top of their lungs. Every time a customer comes in, they do that. And I think one of the slab ice cream companies does it as well. It's customer recognition when they walk in the door. And, you know, you have to hire that way for your employees, and you absolutely have to hire that way for your franchisees.
So, Will, you think that you really want someone with that sales and the big personality? You don't believe that can be taught? Someone who has, you know, the management of people experience, has their finances in place, but maybe has not had much experience in sales. That might not be a fit for Juice Stop, it sounds like.
That's absolutely right. We've had people who've come into our system who have chemical engineering degrees, MBAs in finance from, you know, top-tier schools. Get them in there, and they say, "No, we can do this. We can make it work." And they get in there, and the store sales start to come down. And right. You go into the store and you watch what's happening, and now you know you've got a mistake on your hands, and now you have a real issue. And when you're dealing with those issues, you can't be growing a company, and you can't be growing your top-line sales. So
right.
When you qualify a franchisee, it's something that I think the parent company needs to be actively involved with. I think that there's no substitute for meeting people face-to-face and getting them to stand up and sing happy birthday and watching their response to the question, and having a real heart-to-heart about, you know, are you prepared? What are you going to do if this doesn't work? What are you going to do if you open your store and it never achieves the kind of sales that it needs to be, you know, to pay its rent, its payroll, and its expenses? How do you behave then?
Right. Good point. You know, what happens if someone has a bad singing voice? You just have them stop halfway through, or you have them do the whole song?
You know, I'll take somebody with enthusiasm and a bad singing voice over somebody who wouldn't do it at all.
There you go. Absolutely, I agree with that.
And how's training, Will? I imagine, you know, very important aspect of franchising is training. I imagine you have a very detailed training process.
Well, we do, and, you know, the training is really focused on the things that they need to know that you wouldn't think about. If they have the personality characteristics, and that's something we're, of course, looking for, we don't have to train them on that. We can talk to them about it, and it's like instincts take over. The things that we look at are forecasting, planning, understanding what the business is going to do over the course of a 12-month period from a sales perspective, and being prepared to deal with the financial hurdles they might come up with. We talk a lot about supply chain distribution ordering, when to order, when not to order. We talk about all of the basics get covered, and because of this, here's one of the great things about the juice and smoothie business: we have no grease traps, we have no grills, we have no complex preparation. We have a 29 proprietary drink menu. Each store can add as many as a dozen drinks to the menu that are regional, i.e. if you were in Hawaii, they might be much more tropical. If you were in the East Coast, it might be more indigenous to products being apple ciders and stuff during the fall, what have you. But the core drinks. In about 5 minutes, I could teach both of you how to make each and every one of them. We have great job aids to do that. So the mechanics of the day-to-day operation are maybe a half a day of training. The majority of our training programs more focused on how to run a business and how to be smart about it and have a crash book. And, if this happens, what do you do? So that when the franchisee does open up for business, they're not in a lurch the first time something goes awry. And they feel like they can actually take off and run with this without having to reach out to one of their field support techs on a day-to-day basis. And
pretty interesting.
It works really well.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, in many franchises, it's usually the other way around. There's so much to learn about the product or service, maybe not as much time spent on just basic business practices and how to run the business. And yours, it's the other way around. It's a simple business to run as far as the product.
Right.
And a lot of emphasis is put on the other areas of the business. So
yeah, sure.
That's absolutely right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say we have about 15 seconds. What's the best way for someone to get more information on becoming like a Juice Stop franchisee?
The best thing to do is we've got a website. They can review our website and then contact us. We like to talk to people. We like to get in their head and spend some time with them on the phone. Talk to them, and we'll be glad to prepare marketing materials and have them sent. Of course, after we get down the path, there's a UFOC that gets sent out. But we really like to talk to them about the opportunity, about what they've been doing, and about whether or not this is the right time for them or this is the right concept for them. And, we play a very much a parenting role in kind of decision-making. So I think that's the best thing is just to reach out and contact us.
That's great. Well, Will, you've been a fantastic guest, and I want to have you back on a future show because I still think there's more to talk about.
Definitely, Will. You have so much experience. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks so much,
Will.
You
guys have a great day.
Thanks, Will.
Take care.
Another great show, huh, Don?
Yeah.
It has so much experience, It's I feel very comfortable, buying into one of those franchises, with Will's experience. I mean, he just seems like he's done it all at such a pretty young age, So.
Right, he knows how to do it the right way.
Absolutely.
Everything he's been through, he's seen the good and bad, and he has the right approach. I think he has a strong product. Interesting fruit and vegetables. Everybody needs to have more of that. Healthy
me
drink.
Especially, absolutely. So I want to thank you. Did a great job, Don, and go to franchiseinterviews.com, and if you'd like to reach us directly, you can call it 888-722-2785. You can go to easysba.com. It's another one, isn't it, Don?
Yep, franchisefunding.net.
Franchisefunding.net.
You want to get financing information. And
tune in next week. We'll have another great show.
Yep, sounds great, Marty.
Thanks, Don. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.